So Dassault Systems is a 30-year plus company. Our evolution is from Dassault Aviation, which was a parent company, and those were the days when three-dimensional design software was being created, and Dassault Systems was spun off as a subsidiary of Dassault Aviation, and we spent the first 10 years of our life bringing to the world 3D design software or 3D CAD software. And this was a very successful journey because we had a lot of global companies participating in using our technology for their own 3D design processes. But along that way, we realized that the needs of the market are much larger. They are not just limited to just 3D CAD. And that was a time when the 777 was being created, and we looked at the fact that as product complexity is going up, can I get into doing a complete digital mock-up of a product? Now, we are not talking about a small product here. We are talking about an aircraft, which is to say that we are not going to do any physical prototype. We're going to make a complete digital aircraft, and then we're going to produce, and the first one is going to fly. So that was the era when we introduced something called DMU, which is digital mock-up. And that has today become kind of a standard with organizations that typically you will do a DMU before you actually get to manufacturing. And it has helped significantly reduce the number of prototypes that companies are building today. So today it is possible to actually do a zero geometry error design on a system and then just go and produce it, being very sure that what you will produce will be exactly what you designed and will perform and behave in the same fashion. So we spent the next few years doing that evolution of making sure that people are using 3D CAD tools, that we're using digital mock-up. But then we started realizing that there is a lot more to the design process, and there are a lot of other elements that need to be brought up. And very few people know, but actually Dassault Systems was the company which first came up with the terminology of product lifecycle management, PLM. We coined, unfortunately, it's a very generic term, so it cannot be trademarked. But we were the originators of this whole concept that you should not just look at design, but you should look at the entire sequence of events that happen when you take a product to market. So how do you create a collaborative framework which will allow people to work in that singular environment? So this is still about the last towards the end of the last decade. At this point in time, we are actually realizing, and a lot of our innovation, a lot of our evolutions is driven by our customers who work very closely with us. Today we have close to 130,000 customers across the world of all sizes, all nature, various different industries, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I think today we are coming to a point where there are a lot of dynamics that are in operation. One is that we are living in a far more e-enabled world that we were ever living in. There is a lot of knowledge pool which is there across different organizations today, within the organization and outside the organization. And the cost of innovating or the risks involved in innovating have to be managed in a much more cohesive manner. Which is where we are at this point in time, where we are saying, what after PLM? And our vision, which we shared with the global markets about 6 months back for the first time, is really that what we are taking to the market today is something that we call the 3D experience platform. Now, why 3D experience platform, and what is the elements of this experience platform? So let's first look at the word 3D, right? Human beings are intrinsically, we have binocular vision. That binocular vision allows us to do a spatial sense. So if you look at it from one eye closed, you will see one view. From the second eye closed, you'll get one view. But the combination that we see is a three-dimensional image, whereas I see you sitting here, there is a depth perspective and there is just not a two-dimensional view. So 3D is very important from that perspective. And the other thing which has started to happen is 3D is becoming all pervasive today. It's no longer limited to going to an IMAX or one of those 3D theaters and seeing 3D. You see more and more movies being released, of course, in 3D. But more importantly, what is happening is 3D is becoming commodity. Today, if you go and look at an LED television in the market, if you want to buy one, I can bet on it, you won't find one which is not 3D enabled, right? There are smartphone technologies available today where you'll have unassisted, which means no glasses, no special this thing. I think within this year or early next year, you will see smartphones having 3D displays. What will that allow us to do? It will allow us to innovate. Remember, we've had 3D CAD software and 3D viewing, design software for a long time, but you've been seeing it in 2D on a 2D screen. So you're not still getting the complete impact of it. So that's going to be what shall we call, an inflection point where our innovation is going to become much more rapid. And I think the impact of that is multidimensional. It's in everything. It's in product design, it's in city planning, it's in disaster management. Every single segment that we look at where we work and live and play, 3D is a very, very important element. Let's look at the other element, which is experience. Today, as consumers, we don't go and buy products, we go and buy experiences, right? We go to a nice fancy restaurant to have a meal. We pay that extra money. We know the cost of the food itself might not be what you're paying. You are paying for an experience, right? You look at the phones that are coming out today. They are lesser phones than experiences. They are. You can play games. You can stay connected with your family, friends, network, research information, do whatever. So these are no longer phones. These are experience devices or platforms. And therefore, innovation also needs to keep that in mind. So we have the 3D experience platform that we offer to our customers, and what that allows them to do is bring in a multidimensional view to innovation, which incorporates A, the 3D world, B, a social collaborative platform, because innovation is not limited to one person, IP is not limited to one person. You might have a better idea, though I might be head of product engineering, and I want to capture that in my process. I also need to do a real definition of customer at the center of my universe, which means that even before I start my product definition, I need to listen to what customers are saying. So I need to trawl the net, look at what Twitter feeds are saying, what are people commenting, hey, I bought this product, it has a form factor issue and it has this or whatever. I need to cull all that information and bring it into a single unified environment, which then starts allowing me to do my concept design. Once I validated my concept designs, I can do detailed design, and then I can do in simulation as to how it is going to behave in real life. And that is a very important element, because innovation today has to be sustainable. Sustainable because we no longer have the luxury of time to make sure that the planet is going to be saved. We need to save the planet today, and we need to look at things being done in a more socially responsible fashion. So can I reduce the number of prototypes like we were talking about earlier? Can I do non-destructive testing? Can I do non-destructive training? All those elements need to come in together, and therefore the virtual world which is being built today has to be as close to the real world. Because if you do that, you will do sustainable innovation, because you will test everything in the virtual world and pretty much do very little testing in the real world, and therefore minimize the eco impact of what you're doing. And then you also want to make sure that you are utilizing all IP that exists, and you're not doing, in a manner of speaking, recreating or reinventing the wheel. So the 3D experience platform is a single platform which allows you to do your entire product innovation processes in a single environment with a collaborative framework which allows people from all across the organization to participate in this process. Because our intent is, how do I help my customer create value for his customer? And his customer is looking at an experience, he's not looking at a product. And therefore I need to take an experience which allows him to create that experience. So that in a nutshell is what Dassault Systems is really about today, what is it that we are doing for our customers, what value we are creating for our customers. So that's a broad perspective. To 12 different industries today, and these industries are as diverse as transportation, mobility, aerospace, which is our core, where we started off from, to industrial equipment, to consumer goods, consumer packaged goods, energy, process, utilities, very large construction projects, as well as areas such as natural sciences or natural resources. So we go to 12 different industries today, including high tech, and that's where we are taking our value creation framework to our customers. There is an element of uniqueness in terms of what are the segments which are the more dominant segments. Manufacturing, for example, if you were to take the broad bucket of manufacturing, which includes many different verticals, it is a small portion of our GDP. It is 16% of our GDP, and the National Manufacturing Policy talks about taking it to 25%. Aerospace is a big area that is emerging today. Transportation mobility, we see there is a revolution that has happened in the last 2 decades, right? Uh, but some of the segments are still in a stage of maturation. So various segments of the society are at various stages of their evolution. So, for example, high tech is more e-coding rather than product design. You're not making high tech products. For example, radio transceivers or medical diagnostics, or any of these high tech products. But yes, all 12 of them are present in India, and we do go and address all 12 of them from an India market. Thing actually, when we talk about, and I think there has been a lot written and spoken about the fact that the fulcrum of the world economy is shifting towards Asia. You must remember that true value add or true GDP or true wealth creation or true productivity creation occurs around product innovation, not on creating financial instruments which are hedges or derivative products and all of that. Those are important elements of the social ecosystem, but innovation is a very key element to human progress. Look at the other aspect. We have a long legacy of being very strong in engineering and science domains. Look at the fact that we are still the largest producer of engineering graduates in the world. Look at the fact that organizations are looking at how do they create products faster, take them to market faster. Because we as consumers are wanting products faster, better, smarter, cheaper. And that means that India is sitting at a unique point where there is a huge growth opportunity. If you look at the NASSCOM data, it talks about a $50 billion engineering R&D services that can be driven out of India. Indian companies are going global today, so you need to make products at an exacting standard which is global. You cannot have a compromised quality parameter. If you put all of this together, I think we are sitting at a point in time where there is a huge opportunity for Dassault to help India and Indian companies get to another level altogether. And in that process, help the global markets. So if anything, I would think the opportunity in India is far larger than a lot of countries in the world. And that is why we are very, very focused on the Indian. That out of the 12 industries that we go to, there is one key industry called high tech, as we define it, and this is industry classification, not unique to us. These are industry codes that we look at it. The high tech market in India, as I said earlier in one of my comments, was that the high tech market in India is still very, ECAD centric. We are not making products. And if this were to happen, and I think the government is also looking actively at setting up a fab in India, a silicon fab, I think that will spawn off an ecosystem where we will get into creating products and devices. And when you're doing that, you would definitely need the 3D experience platform to create products which are of value to customers. So we'd be very keen to see that happen, and the sooner the better.
Okay, what kind of good?
Our strategy for India, I share with you that we are very convinced that India has a huge opportunity, and I think as a company in India, we need to contribute to India being propelled to the right level of its deserving place in the state of nations and in an economic perspective as well. So our go-to-market is fairly simple. There is a certain segment of the market that we go and address directly. Very large, OEM kind of companies where we need to be very intrinsically involved with them in helping them bring about a transformation. But a bulk of our coverage of the market is actually through a partner ecosystem. We go to market through partners, and that's very important to understand because we are bringing through the 3D experience platform a set of tools and technologies. Now these tools and technologies need to be added with the value of a particular industry. If I am going to come and talk to you about compressors, I cannot go and talk to somebody else of the same language and talk to them about how are they going to manage their fashion line, the next season fashion line. I need to talk very different languages, and therefore the partners have a very unique position in our environment that we bring the tools and the technology, and they bring the industry and the domain knowledge. And when you connect the two of them, it means a much better value for the customer, because what we will bring to them is the best-in-class tools technologies, and we will also bring an understanding of their unique processes and how can we help them enhance those processes to get productivity gains or to drive business growth. So partners are a very important part of our entire story, and that's what we're taking. In terms of what is unique in India, which is the second part of your question, I think to me it's very important that if we are in India, we need to create a relevance to the India issues, right? I did talk about the fact that there is this national manufacturing policy that is looking at growing the India manufacturing segment as a contributor to the economy to about 25% of GDP. What does that require? We talked about the fact that India is probably the largest engineering graduate producing country in the world, but we always hear this challenge of educated but unemployed. There is a huge generation of youngsters out there who need to go and be productive parts of society and need to have the skills and the competencies which will allow them to create true value for society. And that I think is very unique what we are doing in India today, is that we are extremely strongly focused on the academia part of the market, where we work. And when I say market, I'm not meaning it from it's not a revenue market for me, but it is an investment market for me, where I'm looking at creating those skills which can be used globally in delivering engineering excellence or product innovation excellence. So we are extremely heavily focused on that. We touch about 500 plus education institutions today who use our technology, so that when these students come out, they're employable by the real world. Just as an example, we have a version 6 is a technology platform that we offer. India has the highest number of educational institutions which are teaching using the version 6 of our product compared to any other country in the world. So that is what is unique. We are trying to do nation building here. We are trying to see how is it that we look at the national charter of creating employment, right? And the government is very focused on that. The various institutions focused on skill building as a part of nation building. And we are very clued in on that because we think that is going to be the critical element to propel India to the next generation. The role that I've talked about till now, I think the domain that we operate in is a knowledge domain. It is a domain which is based on understanding of what processes are, how do you create product, how do you create, how do you know that, if I've created a glass, what is the stress level it can take, or if I've created, an automotive, what kind of crash impact it can take, because passenger safety is of high importance. So all of these are knowledge domains. For example, in this example that I gave you, you need to understand multi-physics domains. You need to understand the chemistry of metal behavior. You need to understand physics, because how our force is going to impact this. Where are the force vectors going to be? What is the force vector dissipation that is going to occur? And how are you going to minimize this so that the passenger cabin is least impacted by this force dissipation? That's how you protect a passenger. So these are all knowledge domains, and we work in India through a whole set of partners who bring that knowledge. So it's not a very large community of partners, because this, as you move up a knowledge domain, you will find lesser and lesser people. But I'm very happy to say that we have some very, very strong partners who work with us, taking our 3D experience platform to customers and create value for them. So we are very focused. We are constantly working on giving them a higher order enablement. So we will, kind of run them if we are looking at new multi-physics, analysis tools. We'll run them through the whole domain understanding. So they will understand and tell us, companies want to do not just frontal impact, for example. They also want to do a rollover. They want to do a side impact. They want to do multiple side impacts. They don't want just one point of contact. They want 100 point of contact. And a point of contact simply is that when you have an accident, how many parts are going to touch to each other. And typically, if you were to look at you can actually define it as an infinite set, but it's actually a finite set. How much are you going to sample out of that? Are you going to sample 100 or 1,000? And that could mean a difference between the product reliability or otherwise. So these are partners who are very well enabled, who we bring a higher order enablement, and they work with us in terms of creating value. Most of them are industry, are DS focused, Dassault system focused, because you can't build knowledge in multiple different domains also. Right, you need to understand the tool set in depth, because it's like a simple example which I like to give. You use Excel. How much percentage of the power of MS Excel do you use? Right, very little. Excel is a very, very powerful tool. Uh, Unfortunately, in the domain that we are, we cannot be happy if somebody is using 2% of the tool that we are talking about. We need to ensure that he uses all the capabilities and all the tool sets that we bring. And therefore, they're very focused on Dassault systems. And in the same tone, we therefore do not distinguish between partners. So we don't have a tiering concept. If you are a partner taking my technology and adding value to customers in the consumer packaged goods, you are as important for me as somebody who's going to a transportation or an automotive company. So we have a flat tier model. All of these are knowledge partners. These are not resell or transactional partners. They have domain understanding, and that's how we associate with them. Absolutely. So when we look at acquiring a new partner or signing on a new partner, we go through a very, very rigorous process of two-way interrogation. And that's, to me, is very important. I want the partner to be convinced that what I'm talking about and the technology value that I'm bringing about is relevant to his customer set. I also want to be very rigorous in my examination that does he really understand what are the processes. So if somebody who understands, let's say, manufacturing compressors does not mean he'll be able to go to, let's say, a steel manufacturing company or a steel rolling company and be able to do, sheet metal behavior attributes. There might be two different things. So we dive in and understand what are the technical competencies, what are the domain understandings, what are the skill sets that they are bringing in. And we allow them to do a deep interrogation of us in terms of what are the tool sets that we're bringing in. These are literally tons of them, so you'll have something for styling, you'll have something for material simulation, you'll have something for, behavioral simulation, you'll have something for, requirement gathering. There's so many pieces of technology that go in. I've kind of given you a very simplified view. So we allow them to understand what is it that we do. And it's only when the two of us are convinced that we have value for each other is when we decide to move forward. So it is a very, very rigorous and a very detailed process. Now we have just about double-digit partners, and we're looking at a fairly rapid expansion of that because we want to make sure that in India also we're servicing all the 12 different verticals that we service globally. Right? Conventionally, we do a lot of business in the automotive, aerospace, industrial equipment. But we want to make sure, and we know customers in various different industries need the same level of technology infusion that any customer in the world requires. And therefore, we need domain-centric partners who can go and talk and help these customers, improve their business.